Welcome back to another episode of Geekorama, a podcast by geeks for geeks. We are produced by superherofiction.com, the one-stop shop for all your superhero novel needs. We are your hosts.
I'm Jeremy Flagg, author of the Children of Notre Dame universe.
And I am T.L. Heinrich. I almost forgot my name. I am T.L. Heinrich, author of the Vigilantes universe. Oh my god.
So, first and foremost, we're going to warn you, we're not drunk, but you might think we are.
We're just tired.
It's been a very, very long week, and it's Wednesday.
Yep.
So, this week we're going to continue on with our October Halloween extravaganza, because we just want to drag out Halloween as long as possible. And we are going to be talking about superheroes related to kind of a spooky nature. We're going to talk a little bit about a book, and we're going to talk about a movie. And I've been itching to talk about this movie. We just haven't had a spot for it. So
until now.
But before we get started, how about some pop culture trivia?
We have a wonderful one today for you. Bela Lugosi, the horror movie icon. He was born on October 20th, very appropriately, an October baby, in 1882. It's 85 years or more after he first donned the cape for the vampire. Lugosi's take on Count Dracula is still widely hailed as the definitive portrayal of the legendary villain. He was a World War I veteran. He fought in the Carpathian Mountains, which I think is just really interesting, considering the legends about Dracula come from the Carpathian Mountains. After a successful run as Dracula in a play version of the Bram Stoker's book Dracula, Universal wanted to take the play and turn it into a film, but they didn't want Lugosi to play the title character. He was an unknown. The director really wasn't sure about bringing a stage actor into film. And so a lot of other famous names were bandied about until finally they were able to convince the director to take on Bela Lugosi. And of course, as I said before, his Dracula is the most iconic version. All other movie versions, TV versions, whatever you can find in their performances. You can see the connection to Bela Lugosi's version of it. Even the Gary Oldman version of Dracula, you can see traces of Bela Lugosi in there. So it was released in 1931, and it quickly became one of the year's biggest hits for Universal, and a lot of film historians believe that it single-handedly rescued the studio from bankruptcy. After the success of Dracula, they thought, well, why don't we take on another horror monster book? And so they started to adapt Frankenstein from the Mary Shelley text, and Bela Lugosi famously turned it down and said that it was basically beneath him, and they just needed to get an extra who would stomp around and grunt. So yeah, he went right into that one. But he did eventually end up playing the monster in the movie Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, funnily enough. He and Boris Karloff, there's been this Hollywood legend about them not getting along, when in all actuality, they were pretty good friends. They had a little bit of a rough patch at the beginning, both of them kind of unsure about the other. And they ended up actually becoming very good friends. And Lugosi admits that if not for Karloff, he would have had the market cornered on the horror film market. On August 16th, 1956, Lugosi died of a heart attack. He was 73 years old, and although he kind of resented the decades of typecasting that followed his breakout performance as Dracula, he asked to be buried with the Count's signature garment. So he was actually buried wearing the cape, the famous cape from the movie.
I think I would too.
I know. I would totally want to wear that.
I'm not Bela Lugosi, and I still want to be buried with it. I just find it funny that this man, who, long before my time, and even my typical viewing, he still pops up in really weird ways. And I just looked it up. Bela Lugosi's Dead is a song by the English punk band Bauhaus.
No way.
And that is actually the first time I ever heard his name, was because, I'm such a diehard punk, apparently. I guess I am. And then there are many, many, many songs in the goth genre that talk about Bela Lugosi.
Seriously? Well, that makes sense.
About him.
Huh.
So
he was super. I mean, the original, I saw it a very long time ago, but it is very gothic. That original Dracula film, the way that it's framed, these huge long shots. I mean, these rooms were huge, and they would film them from way up high, and it's a beautifully shot film. I mean, it doesn't hold up in a lot of ways, but it is gorgeous. So I guess that makes sense, because it's incredibly gothic in feel.
In a weird way, I would love to see it remade, but not remade and reimagined. I would love to see it shot for shot with current technology, to see if, because like you said, the cinematography for it is its own art. And
yes.
I would love to see that modernized, but then I don't know if, with the tech, would you lose some of that cool grain? Would you lose some of the nifty shadows that come out of it?
Yeah. Boy, the lighting, I just think about the lighting, how they would have to light it to get the effects that they got. Like it is still a work of Hollywood movie making magic, that whole movie.
And it's still, like you said, it's one of those movies that even if you haven't seen it, you kind of seen it, because everybody references it. I'm certain if I looked it up, Family Guy has a cut scene with Bela Lugosi in it.
Probably. Well, and it is funny. This guy, I mean, just that this version of Dracula, which is, I mean, it's kind of a funny one to have this iconic movie, franchise be built off of, and it's just all of us can point to an image and say, oh, that's Bela Lugosi as Dracula, or it's these famous accoutrements, it's the cape, it's the style, the way that the Dracula looks at somebody, it's the hair. I mean, it's everything that makes us think of Dracula came from him.
And if you're curious, the Family Guy episode is called Count Crotula.
Dear God.
Things you shouldn't Google.
Well, and that you mentioned this movie last time on our Blade episode. It was Monster Squad. So the Dracula in that movie is a dead ringer for Bela Lugosi. It really is.
And I think that's why I like that movie so much, is because it wasn't a remake. It wasn't a reimagining. It really did feel like an homage.
Yes.
And that's what I don't like about Universal attempting to reboot this stuff, is they're trying to throw in one-upmanship.
Yeah.
And really, the fans of these things are the diehards. There are people who own Dracula on multiple formats because they loved the original. So don't remake it. Give it its acknowledgement and completely go off the rails. Otherwise, we'll just go watch the original. Thanks.
Exactly. Or the Gary Oldman one, which I understand the thing about Gary Oldman after watching that movie. Anyway. So what are you geeking out about? I know, but I'm really curious to hear this.
Okay. I wanted to wait until the end of it, and I will say right away, I'm we're going to talk about The Boys because season 2 was batshit crazy, and I absolutely loved it. The first season I loved for weird things, but there was a lot of it I did not like.
Okay.
There were how characters were handled and introduced. It almost came off like you're trying to either be grotesque or be shock and awe for the sake of you have a shitty story, and you don't have a good story. Basically, Captain America or Superman is out of his mind. And at that point, what do? You apparently call Carl Urban and say, hey, you're a nobody. Kill people. And that's what we're started off with. Some of the characters are unfortunately in the first season, I don't think explored enough where you like them. Huey, I felt like they wanted us to love him, and I just wanted to punch him in the throat throughout the whole first season. You're a whiny little brat, and I hope you die. Frenchie, I'm not even sure you have a real French accent. I think you're putting it on. Like, I didn't connect with any of them. The only person that I genuinely wound up liking was Homelander. And not for any good reason. He was just a cool villain in the fact that you have all this power. What horrible things are you going to do? Well, let's watch.
Yeah.
And of course, even that they had to distort into some weird mommy issues. Like,
ew, really?
Oh,
do we have to go there?
There is an ongoing thing with breast milk.
Ew. Ew.
So, and that's what the first season really felt like, how can we shock and awe people to such a degree that they're going to be glued to their screens? And I don't think the stories needed as much shock and awe. There were, if you got rid of the rape scene, it doesn't change the story. If you got rid of the mommy issues, okay, it's going to change the story a little bit. But there's quite a bit of it that it was kind of Games of Thrones-y. As, do you need to have that there?
Yeah.
No.
Which is why I never got into it, honestly.
So season 2 rolls around, and I'm in it. Like, it's superheroes. It's superheroes gone wrong. And yeah, that's apparently my favorite thing in the universe. And we get interesting character development, finally, where it's not just about the world that they live in. It's about the status quo. And essentially what's happening is the Seven are the elite superheroes. And they're backed by a corporation who gives them corporate sponsorship. And they go hand in hand. They're very parasitic in how they work together. It's kind of like having a PR person you can't fire because they're so popular. Okay, we're in bed with the devil. And so slowly they kind of get picked off. But so this season we get some new characters, and one of them her name is Stormfront, and she literally from the very beginning made all like Screen Rant, Comic Book Vine, like all the websites, they were like all over her. And I don't read the comics, so it was all new to me. And this girl comes on, and it opens with her doing a live Instagram video, and she walks onto the set of the Seven's movie about their origin story.
Okay, it's a little meta.
And yeah, it does get very meta. And imagine if the Justice League movie they were all real, but they made that movie so we knew that they were awesome.
Okay.
So she shows up, and she basically inserts herself into Homelander's business, and he keeps trying to like, I'm number one. Everyone else here works for me. And she's just not having it. She's like a true millennial. And I was like, good. Finally, the girl's going to put him in his place. Well, I was very wrong. Because come to find out, she's actually very old, and she winds up banging Homelander because that's just what you do. And she does it as a defense mechanism so that he doesn't kill her. And you're like, okay, well,
shit.
This is getting creepy again. But wait, it was all a ploy. She's actually the wife of the person who developed superheroes, a Nazi. They're not possibly going to go down that. Oh.
Well, okay.
Oh. She gets him on board with her white supremacist message. It becomes a little too, oh, am I watching the news or am I watching a show?
Does Homelander develop a strange addiction to orange spray tan by any chance?
You might notice some parallels.
Oh my god.
But eventually even he's like, I didn't quite sign on. I can't get out of this because he wants to be loved by the populace, and she's trapped him in this. So
shit.
Even in a weird way, he becomes the victim, though you still hate him. And I realize there's only one episode left, and I'm like, oh, well, okay, they're just maybe it's gonna be like a white supremacist uprising in the next season, because that feels like something they would do. No. They burn the Nazi alive.
Homelander?
No, his son.
Please tell me it's a full-grown adult, not a kid.
Oh no, it's a child. If it was an adult, it would be messed up. So
Are you kidding me right now?
And it works in the context of the plot. She's threatening his mom, and the mom and Homelander, not really a thing. And they've been trying to make him use his powers because they want him as a weapon, and he can't use them until he finds someone he hates, and he hates the person who's hurting his mom. And so he literally tears her a new one. But
so the kid isn't the one. The kid isn't the one that gets burned alive. The kid burns somebody alive.
The kid burns the Nazi alive.
Holy shit!
So, in a weird way, here's this very innocent child who, in a moment of desperation, stops the bad thing being done by the white supremacists. Are you seeing some metaphors here?
Jeez.
And if that wasn't enough, you're like, okay, he killed her. He didn't actually kill her. He cut off her arms and legs with some laser beams, and we watch her die in slow, like it's dragged out into minutes.
This feels unnecessary. I mean, I understand how it can feel perhaps a little cathartic these days, but also very unnecessary.
So if I was going to label season 2 of The Boys, the subtitle would be unnecessary. And I wanted more. I was willing to rewind and get some popcorn.
So this very much feels in line with the new game that's sweeping quarantine, and it kind of lines up with my Geek Out, where people are switching from Animal Crossing New Horizons to the game Among Us, where basically you're trapped with people on a spaceship, and one of you starts killing everybody else, and you have to figure out who it is before you all die. Like, this just sounds like you have crossed over from Animal Crossing into Among Us. That's what this is.
There are so many things that happen in it where I honestly felt, because of, the complete and utter messed upness of the first season, I didn't think we were going to get any closure from it. I just thought it was going to be like, you're left wanting over and over. No. And the absolute best part of this whole thing is there is a Wonder Woman character. Her name is Maeve, and she looks like an Amazon, and she's basically Wonder Woman in everything. Okay. And her and the plucky ex-Christian happy-go-lucky girl and this new social media glitz glam girl all start doing commercials because they're rebranding because they're losing the women's demographic, and it's so women make it happen. And so you're just like, okay, like, and it's meta in the fact that they're showing you how a corporation manipulates you. And it was genius. The genius comes in when the Nazi woman is getting her butt handed to her by all the other people, and the Christian girl who like beating on her, and you're like, oh, she'll never win. Well, all of a sudden the Wonder Woman character comes in who you never thought would have backed her up and starts railing on her. And so these three women characters are beating on this bad woman. And the French dude just goes, wow, women really do make it happen. And then I realized, oh shit, we saw them showing women being badasses and being very meta about it and unveiling the wizard behind the curtain, and we fell for it. Crap.
Damn.
So last episode was why I stuck with the show. If you haven't watched it, I just spoiled everything. Go watch it anyways. Because just go watch the last episode. Just I can't go beat up Nazis. So someone did it for me.
Got it. Okay. Now that makes sense.
So is your geek out nearly as and Jensen Ackles will be in season 3. That's
okay. That's
and
cool.
he plays Captain.
The devil? Oh, okay. All right.
So
I was gonna say the devil would be a good follow-up, Supernatural, but yeah, okay.
It's just funny because Kripke did Supernatural and he's doing The Boys, and he's like, yeah, I originally said Supernatural only ever lasts 5 seasons, so stop asking me how many seasons it's gonna get. I'm not good at this.
That's hilarious.
At least he's funny about it.
Yeah.
So what's your geek out this week?
Mine is so the opposite of yours. It's not even funny. So I am late to the party. I'm always late to the party. And part of it was just because we were like, we're not spending money on another video game, but we finally got Animal Crossing New Horizons. And for the last 3 weeks, I have been obsessed with that fucking game. So I can totally see why at the beginning of all of this in February and March, this was the game. People were just going crazy about it because it is completely delightful, and it is actually, until you get into the terraforming, which I haven't gotten into yet, it's very low stress unless you let your 7-year-old start the game. And I didn't know that the person that starts the game is the one that has all the power to build shit and terraform and do all the stuff that can really fuck up your island. So I have had to be very clear with her, Kara, you cannot put up any more buildings because you're ruining the island. And I'm trying not to be a huge control freak.
But your daughter is Lex Luthor.
No, it's so bad. So I thought we each got our own island. I was like, this is gonna be great. Like, I let her set up the whole thing the way she wanted. Like, I was helping her pick out a name. And I was like, okay, then now it's Mommy's turn. So I logged in that first day, and I was like, what? We're all on the same island. I'm like, I did not sign up for this.
We're already in the same house.
I know. What the hell?
So now Animal Crossing has been quarantined.
Yeah, you have to. So just to let you know, everybody, if you're planning on playing, play with your kids. It's a great family game, actually, but do not let your children be the number one player. go on as the adult, and you set it up first. Trust me on this. So anyway, like I have had to log in as her character and progress things on the island to make sure that she wasn't putting houses just willy-nilly all over the fucking place, because it costs like in-game currency to move buildings. And I've been watching all these YouTube videos, of which there are like thousands. I mean, this is a rabbit hole from which there is no return. I am warning you. And I'm watching these people basically say, oh my God, don't do what I did and scatter all your houses. And I'm like, well, shit, we've scattered them all over the island. So now it's Halloween. So there's like the update was like the fall update. And so there's all these really cool Halloween things. So I told her very specifically, I was like, Cara, Mommy is going to make the pumpkin patch. You cannot uproot the pumpkins and move the pumpkin patch.
So my question is, can you ground her in the game, or do you have to do it in real life?
I have to do it in real life. And honestly, like, she went against the no build policy. Because, like, now we're at the stage where new villagers are going to start potential new villagers are going to start visiting the island, and they, like, camp out in the campsite. And the thing is, you want, this is so in-depth, man. I had no idea this game was, like, this bonkers. So, like, you want a good mix of personalities, because actually what could happen is, like, if you don't get the right mix of personalities, the other residents, the NPCs, will start fighting, and then you have to referee the fights. And I'm like, I don't want any of this. So we have to figure out, like, the right personality mixes. So I told her, I was like, stop inviting people to live here. I was like, we can't keep doing this. Okay, Mom. But then I log in, and I'm like, what the hell is this construction site here? Well, she's like, there was this really cute horse, and he wanted to live here, and I said okay. And so now we have a horse, and I think it's an okay personality mix, because she ended up putting his house up on the cliff. So I think we're gonna be okay. I'm not sure.
Your daughter got a real estate license.
I know. It's really scary.
She
super scary.
Your fate.
Yeah, well, and I actually logged in, so like I did all the work unlocking, like upgrading the buildings and getting like the special store to open and everything like that. And I told her, I said, I am picking out the plots where we're putting the new neighbors. And she's like, okay, can I help? And I'm like, sure. And she wanted to put them so close to the other houses. I was like, honey, you can't even walk between them like there. Okay, we'll put them over there. I'm like, that's the river. We can't put them on the river. I'm just like, oh my God. But we got it worked out. She knows the boundaries. And I do log in as her, and I do like because stupid Tom Nook won't talk to me, my character, about building shit. I'm like, oh my God, I bought the fucking game. But so I log in as her. I get the assignments, and I do it as her, and then I just log in as myself. I was like, okay, that's how we're going to do it.
So you're getting jealous of your daughter's relationship with an NPC.
Basically, yes. Yes, I am.
I just have this, in the middle of the night, you're going to be storming into the room. You're breaking up.
Well, and I told her, I was like, honey, you can't build anymore. Please don't build anymore. Okay, I'll try, Mom. I'm like, oh my God. I am terrified to unlock terraforming, because I know I'm going to log into the game. I'll be like, where did all this water come from? Like, she's going to start just putting lakes everywhere. And the funny thing is, you can actually flood your island. If you don't terraform properly, you could flood the whole thing. So I'm just like, oh my God.
You're going to log into your virtual funeral.
I know, right?
Oh my God.
Also, I mean, and for all that I'm talking about it really is a low stress game. Like right now I'm working on hybrid flower colors. I'm trying to get like black roses and black tulips, and they're not popping up. It's kind of pissing me off. But I keep trying. So it's stuff like that. You're like, time to build the orchard, and I'm trying to find apple starters so we could like have apples along with the rest of our fruit. So it is stuff. It's like incredibly innocuous. Like there's shooting stars, and you wish on a shooting star, and then the next day you find star fragments, and it's just delightful stuff like that. But then there's also the stress of I don't want my daughter to play unsupervised because I don't want her to ruin the island, and I feel really bad about that because I'm like, it's just a game, but suddenly I'm super invested in this.
So our question of the week will be, do you think that Trish's family will be torn apart by next episode?
Oh my God. So that's my geek out.
I just think it's funny that your daughter is Lex Luthor from Superman Returns.
She totally is, man. She totally is.
It's gonna be all turn around with petting the cat.
Yeah, exactly. And she's so hilarious. She wants like all the things, and so her yard for her house in Animal Crossing is littered. It's like the set from Sanford and Sons. I'm not even kidding. It's just littered with stuff. Like, why do you have all this in your yard? She's like, I can't fit any more in my house. I'm like, oh, sweetie. Okay.
Your house is going to be condemned.
Oh my God. She really is quite cute though. Like she walks around in like these weird outfits. Look at the outfit I created. And I'm like, that's awesome. Go you.
Stop letting people on the island.
I know. Just don't invite any more friends. No more inviting people.
It's the modern day get off my lawn.
It kind of is. But I like these YouTubers kind of terrified me because they're talking about how they had to kick like NPCs off their island because they were fighting and driving down their rating for their like there's an actual rating you have to hit, like a 5-star rating on the island. And they're like, these two were just driving down the rating, so I had to kick them off. And I'm like, what a fucking nightmare. Like, I don't want to deal with that.
So you've heard it from Trish. Animal Crossing, low stress.
It's supposed to, it can be if you're not as emotionally invested as I am. I don't know. It's brought out my control freak tendencies, and I feel super bad about it, actually.
Next week is just going to be her crying. An hour of tears.
She invited another villager. I can't take it anymore.
I feel like that should be its own Twitter account.
What should be?
You berating your daughter about her Animal Crossing habits. She's a great person until she lets strangers in.
Exactly. Hey, I don't care. She can put all the crap she wants in her yard. She can do all that weird stuff. Like, that is totally fine. Just stop inviting NPCs to live in our island paradise. Thank you very much.
All right. We're going to go to a commercial, and then we are going to hop into the deep dive.
Desperate to read a great cape and cowl story but unable to find any on Amazon? Want a new anti-hero to love to hate? Need some women heroes in your super team rotation? Superhero Fiction is here to help. With over 300 curated superhero books and counting, you're sure to find the novel that will scratch your itch. Unless, of course, that itch is a radioactive spider bite, and then, well, you're on your own. Superherofiction.com. Real fans read.
And we're back. So we're going to start with, now that we've just had a lighthearted, fun talk of Animal Crossing and possible in-game
World domination?
People.
Yeah.
So this week's movie, I wanted to talk about a movie that it wasn't really highly anticipated at all. Brightburn. So weirdly enough, Brightburn is a story that we're all familiar with. Essentially, a spaceship lands in the middle of a Midwestern family's yard, and they wanted a kid, and there was a kid inside. Problem solved. We know this story, and what kind of made me wonder, and I did go look this up, there were no legal issues.
Huh. Wow. That surprises me.
I would have thought Warner Brothers would have pile-drived this movie into the ground. And so the boy in it, his name is Brandon, and his parents are played by, I'm going to have to look up all of this because I never remember anyone's name. The nice thing about it is we get to see another version of Superman's origin story, except it goes bad. So parents are played by Elizabeth Banks, who was just a person.
Love her.
And David Denman. And so their son, Jackson Dunn, played by Jackson Dunn, he is just kind of a social recluse. His family is kind of his best friends. There's not a lot of socialization. We see him at school. He excels at school. He's basically, your typical kid. There's nothing weird about it. And it starts with, let's see how fast we can make this creepy, with they're talking about the difference between wasps and bees. And he starts talking about the hive mentality and how they'll sting. And then he goes on to describe parasitic wasps. Like, he knows way too much about this.
Okay, that is totally creepy.
And it's super important for the plot, but not until you're home from the theater, because it didn't really make a whole lot of sense then. And so what we find is Clark Kent was the perfect child. Dad says, do this. He says, yes, sir. Let's go do it. Well, let's be quite honest. What adolescent child does everything that their parent wants? Superman is so idealized that it's kind of hard to suspend disbelief in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to have growing pains. And so we find out the parents have hidden the spaceship in the barn, just like Superman.
Dun, dun, dun.
And he started to exhibit powers. Okay, nothing's weird there. And there's this delightful scene where they find what they think might be porn in his room. And it's basically just, weird kid with pictures of women. And like the parents, like typical parents, they're like, what does this mean? And their aunt is the social worker at the school that he goes to. And she's like, he's curious. He's just a typical boy. Nothing weird about it.
Oh, God.
And there's really not too much.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't get weirdly, well, yeah. So
I'm looking at pictures. That is the freakiest. His costume is the freakiest looking thing I've seen. Oh, my God.
And it freaks me out. Just the costume on its own. I mean,
yeah.
But also, it's something that a kid his age could have done.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of why I think they did it, because it kind of mutilates this childlike innocence that we associate with adolescence.
Mm-hmm.
So Dad takes him out on a hunting trip to, have the man talk. And it's so socially awkward. And I'm a high school teacher. Like, I've had to step in and have some of these, I refer to them as dude talks.
Mm-hmm.
And they are awkward. So, bear with me. They're hunting, got a rifle. They're waiting for a deer. And he's telling them, if you have urges,
oh, God,
it's okay to kind of give in to them once in a while. And
Oh God.
The kid's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, your penis. And the kid's like, oh, if it had ended there, it would have been every American family's sex talk.
Okay.
The statement that follows is, right now? I mean, right now. No, not right now. And it's just, you can see that he's not socializing in a manner that you would expect. Like his level of decorum or expectations as an adolescent just aren't quite lining up. And so there's just a little bit of awkward friction. And honestly, it could have been, I'm sure that this conversation has happened with anyone who's had a young person who might have some sort of delay in learning. Like I can see it, where your body kind of outruns your mind. And so, okay, where are we going with this? So he has a crush on a girl at school. And so, while he's out camping, he flies by her window and just watches her. Nothing too creepy.
Okay.
I hate to say he's a boy being a boy. He's just now a boy with the means to do things he normally wouldn't be able to do.
Okay. And also not the filter to know, hey, this is probably not. So like the implication that being that he's an alien, he's just not getting being a human kind of a thing?
It's almost like, in a weird way, like the expectations that we think up to this point we've instilled in our kids, they would know necessarily right from wrong, and they'd be able to gauge, maybe not perfectly, but his seems just slightly askew. And I've worked with these teenagers before, so I recognize, okay, something. Normally what we would do is be like, hey, social worker, we need to talk, which is part of the story. He goes on. So the next day, the girl makes some statement about him staring at her through the window, though she's on the second story. She doesn't know how, but he was doing it. And they're doing a trust exercise. And on the floor because, they're picking on him. And she's like, you're a creep. And the teacher says, help him up or you fail. They're intentionally progressing like social things that we know are incorrect, and they kind of blow him up out of proportion. So he takes her hand, and then she tries to help him up. He crushes her hand and snaps her wrists.
Holy shit.
He picked on her. Or no, she picked on him.
She picked on him.
So,
wow.
Justified.
So he's psychotic.
And his sociopath. Yeah. Is coming through.
Holy crap.
I have worked with sociopathic teens before. This is fairly accurate. So they don't socialize the way we would expect them to. And so she makes a comment, or he has to go to the principal. He gets kicked out of school for the day. The mom calls him the girl's mom calls him a monster and whatever, and walks off. So her mom is working at the diner, and he shows up and kills her. But that's not what makes it creepy. It's that he plays with it first. He taunts her. So he wants her to be scared before he kills her.
Holy crap.
And that's what makes this movie creepy, is not the fact he knows he could kill everybody instantly. Not a problem. Piece of cake. I have laser beams. I can do it. Push, done. He wants them to be scared first. We see other scenes where he's standing around chickens and the chickens are terrified of him, and he's reveling in it. This is where it starts to get creepy. And so ultimately, he makes the mask, he's going out, and he's killing people who get in his way. He defends his father and mother, but his father's like, shit's dangerous. Like, we got to do something. So they go on a hunting trip, and the dad tries to kill him.
Holy crap, that's not a solution.
Shoots him in the back of the head. Doesn't work. So he gets mutilated. And when I say mutilated, you see it. All of it.
Oh my God.
You see parts of the human body you shouldn't be able to see into. This.
Oh my God.
There's only 4 instances of like, oh my God, death. And they ratchet them up to such a bizarre level that I would say it would be unnecessary, except for the fact that he's weirdly taunting them. And so his mom like is trying to defend him through all of this. And she's constantly saying like, I'll always love you. I'll always love you, until she realizes, crap. And that, I think, is what actually makes the story the more terrifying thing, is that unconditional love goes as far as it absolutely can until it reaches a brick wall. And so ultimately she tries to kill him, and she knows how to kill him. The metal from his spaceship can injure him.
Okay.
There's
Makes
like a
sense.
pulsing green light. I'm not really quite sure. They don't explain it. Who cares?
Well, pulsing green light, so it's basically kryptonite.
Yeah. I mean, they're not trying to disguise this one bit. It's Superman. It's Superman's story if it went wrong. And so she tries to kill him, gets kind of close, doesn't work, dead. So there's a scene where the sheriff shows up and is like, hey, do you know anything about this symbol? And it's a B to a backwards B.
Okay.
Because his name is Brandon Breyer. Clark Kent, Brendan Breyer. Yeah, we're not.
Wow, how did Warner Brothers allow this?
Not a lawsuit, not one.
Holy crap.
And so she realizes, I've seen that before. And so she goes up to his room and opens up his sketchbooks, and she starts flipping through them. And he's been drawing the symbol since as long as he can remember. But the drawings steadily get more violent. And finally, he started drawing all the people he killed and how he killed them. And then it progresses to him destroying the world. And it literally says, destroy the world, destroy the world, destroy the world. And so that's the end of the movie. And you get to the end and you're like, did I just watch a Superman snuff flick? Oh, right. Let's go back to the wasp. The parasitic wasp injects into one of the things that it's trying to infiltrate the colony.
Uh-huh.
And it will go into the colony and murder the whole colony from the inside out. He wasn't a crashed ship. He was sent here for a purpose.
Oh my God.
Oh. So on first watch, it's just violent Superman. If Superman made every bad choice possible, and then on the second watch through, I was like, oh, you actually had a purpose.
Yeah.
And it wasn't extremely obvious. And some of the things I really did like about this movie, one, if you're going to make a villain, you got to make them, it's not just enough to watch them do bad stuff. They made him so non-redeemable so quickly that you were like, where is this going? And it just layered brutality on top of brutality. We had to give some semblance of hope that at least one of the parents would make it out alive, because they're the only remaining characters we care about.
Yeah.
Nope. And then we have this underlying story that's happening. But did you ever see Superman Red Sun?
I I started to watch that. It's the cartoon, right? The cartoon film. I started to watch it, and I just was like, meh. I mean, Superman is such a boring character to me. And Dan ended up just kind of telling me what happened, and I was like, well, that's kind of fucking depressing. Like, the only way that he's good is if he lands in the middle of fucking Kansas in America. Like, seriously?
And so Red Sun, essentially a Superman story, is if he'd fallen into Soviet Russia. And Stalin raises him as his child. And he does horrible, horrible things. But he has some redemption arc. Like he realizes that he's been used and he fights back. Basically, Wonder Woman saves the day is the plot point. But there's no redemption story here. And that's what I think the cool part of it is that they did not ever want you to think, well, maybe he'll turn around. Because at the beginning, he's a kid. You're like, oh, no, he's just doing weird kid things. He'll be fine.
No.
So,
no, it won't.
And again, my big thing right now is I'm tired of action adventure superhero. Wah wah. I got Endgame. Endgame gave me exactly that. There was no. That's what it was. So now give me superheroes in a different context. So Brightburn, I'm gonna say, was the first true horror movie first, superhero movie second.
Okay. That makes sense with what you're telling me. Like, I'm kind of glad I didn't watch it. I don't think I would have liked it at all.
And it's weirdly, I'm gonna say on like my scare scale, it doesn't go very high. There's a couple jump moments, but for the most part, it's the characterization that is so incredibly disturbing.
See, that would stick with me. It doesn't. I mean, for something to be like, I'm glad I didn't see it. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a slasher film or anything like that. It's more about, is it going to stay with me? Am I going to probably end up having nightmares about this? And it sounds like something that would really stick with me and possibly give me some bad dreams. So I'm really glad I didn't watch it.
And I work with kids all the time, and we're trained to spot the oddities. Some of them are within acceptable parameters, and sometimes we need to get the social worker in here just to make sure everything's okay. They did everything right. The family did everything right. The terror of it is you could do everything right and it still goes wrong.
Yeah, especially if it's aliens sent to infiltrate Earth and kill everybody.
And that's my theory. It doesn't get exactly confirmed. And
makes sense, though.
Supposedly, there were talks into making a sequel.
Jeez.
Basically, a Justice League.
A reverse Justice League?
So
that's terrifying.
If Justice League had been horror front and then superhero.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I would have been way more into it. So I don't know where they're going to go with it. I mean, they ripped off everything about Superman in this except for the name Superman.
Oh my God.
I'm glad they did it, but still, I checked for lawsuits. Nothing.
How did Warner? I would be very curious to find out how Warner just kind of turned a blind eye. Why they did.
I almost wonder if they're like, no one's ever going to watch this. There's going to be one podcaster out there that ever talks about this. So,
well, I guess, you know what? Legally, they might not have had a way to do anything because if they don't use any names.
Yeah.
In a lawsuit, I mean, the defense could be what? So what?
He flies. He comes from an alien. Yeah, like I wonder if the lawyers are like, this isn't a slam dunk win. Let's just let's pretend it doesn't exist, and let's go make more Men of Steel.
That was a choice.
Right. So yeah, I'm gonna put it on the recommendations list for scary movies. I'm not gonna put it in the recommendation for superheroes just because I don't think it didn't really scratch the superhero need. But I liked it. I really like the comic book series called What If. And they take typical canon and they change something subtle about it. And in this, it was just, what if Superman wasn't the good person he grew up to be?
Yeah.
And we got to watch it unfold. So I like the familiarity of it with that subtle difference turned into a whole different genre. So don't think you're ever going to walk out of this one feeling happy. And if you're not a fan of blood and gore, there are a couple that even I just ugh.
Yeah, no, not gonna happen for me.
So yeah, that's my Halloween pick this time around.
All right. Well, I know we're approaching the hour, but we're gonna go a little bit over, folks, since you're only getting these every other week. Might as well. Mine is a book. So Sarah Kuhn has written the Heroine Complex series, which is up to this. Before this book I'm going to talk about today, it was 3 books. And it's wonderful. It's Asian American women in the spotlight. They are San Francisco's premier superheroines. It's romantic. It's steamy. It's funny. There's a shop that features prominently in the first 3 books called Pussy Queen. And it is lingerie and all kinds of awesome stuff. There was a novella that came out after the 3rd book that was all about one of the supporting characters and her proposing to her girlfriend. And it's delightful. There's representation all over the place. So in this 4th book, it is actually set at Halloween. It's called Haunted Heroine. Is it what?
Is it recent?
It's recent. Yes. It just came out like at the end of September. And every year for October, I get the girls a book because Neil Gaiman started All Hallows Read, where you give a kid like a scary book or some kind of book maybe that they wouldn't necessarily pick for themselves. And so every year we do this for the girls. We pick out a book for them, and I usually end up getting a book for myself. And this year I ended up getting Haunted Heroine by Sarah Kuhn. It is the 4th full-length book in the Heroine Complex series. And we go back, Evie Tanaka was the heroine in the very first book. And so Evie, and this has got some spoilers, so if you want to read the books, pause, go read the books, then come back and listen. So Evie ends up falling in love with a guy who's part demon, because that's how everybody gets their superpowers, is from demon portals, and the power leaks through and affects humans. So this guy is here, and he's trying to keep his mother, the queen of the demons, from branching over into the mortal realm, and he and Evie end up falling in love. And you find out at the end of the 3rd book that Evie is pregnant. Woohoo! And so this book is Evie being pregnant, and her husband is really kind of freaked out because like there's been superhero babies before, like superheroes have gotten pregnant, but nobody's ever been a superhero and gotten pregnant by like a guy who's part demon. So they're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And she's having some health issues, like some stress and stuff like that. And so he's being super overprotective. She's feeling this enormous amount of stress, like I am going to screw everything up. She essentially raised her sister after her dad ran off and their mom died of cancer. And that turned out okay. That turned out really well. Actually, her sister's pretty well adjusted, but she's got a lot of Evie's got a lot of fears. And so what I loved about this is, first of all, it takes place during October. It takes place during Halloween. And it's all about ghosts, and figuratively and literally. So Evie dropped out of college. And when she was in college, she was having an affair with one of her professors. It was totally consensual, but still, power dynamics were uneven, and it wasn't good. And he also made her feel like shit about everything. Cheated on her, and when she found out he cheated on her, she ended up burning down the school library because she's a pyrokinetic. Her powers are pyrokinesis. So she gets invited back to the college that she dropped out of, and they keep calling her an alumni. And she's like, I never graduated, though. What the heck is going on? But her best friend's like, no, you need a weekend away. Let's have a girls' weekend away, a girls' baby moon. And she's like, okay, whatever. So her friend, who's also a superheroine, the two of them end up going to this college campus, and they find out very quickly, like, the college has had a history of like being haunted, but everybody's like, bullshit. Like, that's just urban legend. Well, ends up, the ghosts are actually manifesting very strongly, and they are starting to hurt students. And so Evie and her best friend, Aveda, they end up enrolling as college students. They get glamored so nobody recognizes them because they're actually kind of famous. And they're investigating what is up with these ghosts. And of course, Evie runs into her former lover / professor, who's a giant douche nozzle. And he ends up being a part of it. Like, he's got this super creepy obsession with her. He's got a shrine to her. He's like, I needed to lure you back here so I could save you from the mistake of never achieving your greatness and marrying yourself off to this oaf. And she's just like, what the hell? But the book is all about Evie dealing with the ghosts from her past, these regrets, these fears, while also doing battle with like literal ghosts who are, you come to find out, infused with demonic energy from a portal that is being opened and closed on college campus. So it is wonderful. It's a great addition to the Heroine Complex series. It's got some spooky elements to it. It's got two badass female superheroes who are doing battle. It's got some fantastic new supporting characters in the college students. I absolutely loved them. And I also loved how the author just took us on this journey of Evie, who, appears really put together through, from the end of the first book through the second and third. You believe, hey, she's got it all together. She's all good. She's healed up from her wounds of the past. And this book is like, no, there's still a lot of stuff she has to unpack. And I loved the fact that the author also gave us this married couple who I loved them in the books. And they're this married couple. They love each other, but they're having a rocky patch, and it's all about them learning how to be a married couple. Well, she's a superhero and he's part demon. And they're expecting a baby. And so how do they deal with that? And the fact that it's still romantic, it's still suspenseful, it's still funny. It's great. If you're looking for something that's a little on the fluffier side, you want a superhero Halloween book, I would even say you could probably read this without reading the other three, although it's better having had the history of the characters. But yeah, I really loved it. I read it in a week, so it's not super long. It's not super difficult.
How old are the first three books in the series?
So, that's a really good question. I don't know, because
they've been out for a little while, right?
They have been out for a little while. Hold on a second. Let me look. Heroine Complex by Sarah Kuhn. It could be, let's see here. So the first book came out July 4th, 2017. And actually, she's traditionally published. So for a trad pub book, that's a decent clip.
Oh yeah, well, that's what I was wondering, because I see her name pop up all the time on Instagram. Just people love her books.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah, so the first book came out July 2017.
Huh. For some reason, I thought it was older than that.
Yeah, I did too. But I think that's because with traditional publishing, it's rare that the books come out this quickly. Like 4 books in 3 years, that's a good clip, actually.
Yeah, I know quite a few people who it's like 1 book a year or every other year.
Exactly. But yeah, these, and what I want to say too is if you're looking for a good, steamy, romantic superhero series, it's really quite different in terms of like how they get their power set and how the world is constructed. This is a fantastic series for that, just in general.
Is it?
But
is it steamy enough that you would say definitely not a young adult book?
Depending on how comfortable you are with your teenagers reading sex, I would say 16 and up.
Okay.
It's not erotica, but
Okay.
there's definitely there's not a fade to black. The sex scenes happen on the page.
Okay.
But it's not dirty, if that makes sense. I feel bad saying that word because erotica isn't dirty. It's just a different flavor of steamy romance for a lot of people. But I guess the difference is the sex scenes, although they happen on the page, they do have something to do with the story. So it's not just for titillation. This is part of the character arc, these two people coming together. So
yeah, it's a little bit different giving, though this might also be why I'm not a parent, a little bit different between giving a book with some sex and here's Penthouse.
Exactly. Yeah, no, this is not Penthouse. But I would, if Rosalind was 16 and she was curious about it, I'd be like, yeah, you could read it. That's fine. But I'm not a prude about, Rosalind was finding out about sex at 4 and 5 because she was asking the questions and I didn't see the point in hiding anything. So if you're okay with sex and stuff, I would say 16-year-olds could read this book and that wouldn't be a problem. Now,
would you categorize the tone as, because you said it was fluffy, does it end on a good note?
Yes. There are HEAs, or happily ever afters, are a signature of every one of her books, including this one. Even though it centers around a married couple, there's still a happily ever after.
Okay. So, not mutilation.
There is no mutilation, no.
So, she did burn down the library of her school. So,
she did. She burned down the library. Again, yeah, and there is some really fun. There's some fun ghost stories, and she based the college campus off of an actual college campus that she went to, and I think she might have actually drawn some of the ghost lore from her college for this book. I don't know for sure, but some of the legends are interestingly specific. Where I'm I wonder if this is from your college or other people's ghost stories. So I'm a sucker for a good ghost story. So I really loved it for that as well.
So one summer I was working as a summer RA in the building, and we had the students who didn't quite get into college, but they had potential. So they would come for the summer program and stay in our dorm. And so they're all 17, 18-ish. Mm-hmm. And they were mostly from, inner city Boston. So, I lived in Salem, and for me, Salem's a huge city. For them, they're like, oh, this is the middle of nowhere. So we used to have floor meetings and have chats with them. And I started a legend about the janitor who died in our floor. And this, again, why I should not have superpowers or children.
Oh my God, dude.
But that wasn't enough. I spent the night in the boiler room closet. So it was double doors. And I said, he hung himself in there, and it was because of a work dispute, and he lost his job, and,
oh my God,
hammed it up. And so I went and got one of the custodial's uniforms, and I would walk through the halls at night.
Are you serious?
And if that wasn't enough, because I heard them start talking about it, then I spent the night, I dragged a blanket and a pillow into the boiler room, and I slept in there. And I kept making noise every time I would hear someone go by. And so basically, I am a horrible person, and I really like people. And the best part of it was I went back for a friend of mine who graduated before me. I went back for her, not kind of mini reunion type thing.
Uh-huh.
And I heard the students talking about the janitor. I was
oh my God.
In the universe is that I created a ghost story.
Oh my God. I wonder how long that's going to go for, and how many people are going to add to the legend. You know what I mean?
Like I almost want to go back and, slip one of the RAs a 20 and be like, don't ask why. I'm going to sleep in this room tonight.
Don't tell anybody.
Uniform.
Wait, and I would die if they were like, wait, that there's a ghost that wanders the halls, right?
You're like, I knew him when. Again, why I'm not allowed to have children with superpowers.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
So,
all right, folks.
What should be the question of the week this week?
I don't know. I mean, well, I want to know what people are going to do for Halloween, because Halloween's a little weird this year. And honestly, going back to Animal Crossing, they have this whole event that happens the night of Halloween in the game. And since my girls can't go trick-or-treating, we're actually going to get dressed up in the game, and we're going to put on I bought us all headbands with little witch hats. So we're going to put our headbands on, and we're going to put on our in-game Halloween costumes, and we're going to go to the event, because you can play, 3 people can play together, but there's only one person that's really in control of things, and you can switch who the leader is. So that's what we're doing Halloween, and the girls are way into it. But I'm just curious about what everybody else is doing on Halloween, because it's a little different this year.
And I want to know if people are going to get dressed up.
Yes, and what you're dressed up as.
I have ideas.
I want pictures.
I might look into cosplaying one of my own characters.
Oh my God! Yes.
I'm not sure.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to think about this.
I have some ideas. I'll shoot you an email, and then we can post pictures. If you as a listener want to see our Halloween costume / whatever we're gonna do, you can join the reader group, Superhero Fiction Readers, on Facebook. And you can find out what we did for Halloween.
Maybe dressed up for the next one.
Ooh, that'd be fun. I would totally be in that.
Your costumes anyway, so why not?
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Our next episode will be the Thursday before Halloween.
See ya.
To stay up to date with the Geekorama podcast, you can watch our videos on YouTube or subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. And if you enjoy the show, leave us a review or hit the thumbs up button. New episodes are released on Thursdays for podcast listeners and YouTube fans.